Welcome everybody to the Mind, Body, and Soul television show coming to you live from our internet television studios in Denver, Colorado. And also we are streaming on YouTube Live as well as Google Hangouts and at consciousevolutionmedia.com. I'm your host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and we have a very interesting guest with us this afternoon. His name is Dr. Drew Neville, and he's joining us from Chicago right now. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome. Glad to be here.
Awesome to have you. So, if I took away all your titles, like that you're a doctor and a friend and all the other titles that anybody has ever called you, if I took all those away, who is Dr. Drew Neville? Like, really?
Well, that's an interesting question. I guess you come right out of the chute and you told me to strap my seatbelt on.
This is how we walk the talk on this network.
Who am I? I'm just but a human, a man, a person, and those are all titles too. That's an interesting question. When you ask me that, and I think of my authentic self and what that really means, it means to me somebody who is sharing themselves fully with head, heart, and spine at whatever capacity that you get to experience another person, anything that's part of this universe and this planet. So somebody who's authentic. That's what comes to my mind and comes to my heart when you ask me that.
Okay, great. Thanks. So we're going to have this really interesting conversation. The theme of today's show is really about how to escape the stress that's driving our lifestyle. And my current understanding, not that I know it all, because I don't, but my current understanding is that one of the biggest issues that humanity has right now, stress is killing us. It's killing humanity off. We're getting sicker and sicker and sicker. What can you tell us about that, and maybe add some more statistics to it if you know some?
Well, I do. I've been part of the anti-stress paradigm as long as I can remember in my old life and in my new life. So the statistics that I look at that are staggering is that over 90% of all health-related issues that we're dealing with, from heart disease to diabetes to even bone loss, all of those are directly related to stress. And the paradigms that are there to battle those, well, they're losing the battle, because it doesn't seem to be going in the other direction for the most part. Meaning, like you were saying, there's more and more stress, more and more issues with that. And I guess the question for me is, especially if you're looking, one of the recent statistics that I saw that was staggering too was a recent study done was over 85% of all medical practice is non-scientific, meaning 85% of the things that they're doing to help battle with people, that there's no science behind it. And I like to look at science at least as part of a foundational aspect of anything that I approach and anything that I do. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at when it comes to stress. And then what vehicle do people have to get away from that, or at least drive in the opposite direction?
Okay, awesome. So this is something that is very close to my heart, this subject. Because we're constantly looking for, our entire network is really about to drive people inside of themselves, because I believe that all the answers to humanity and everything that we're all looking for is inside of us. There's no outside magic, or how do I want to say it, like a shiny object out there that people can get and solve their problems or get the answers to their questions. And I'm speaking from personal experience, I chased shiny objects for most of my life. and,
Right,
and
right.
in the last decade, it has become really clear that it's all within me. And so I changed my lifestyle as well, and I don't have the stresses and the addictions and all the things that I'm sure we'll get to talk about. But what's interesting to me is that people in general um, are mesmerized by the outside world, and I don't know if that's a good word to use. Maybe not just mesmerized, but controlled. Uh,
Absolutely.
and we need to wake up. And how do we wake them up? So what I'm really interested in having a dialogue about is this process, and I guess you guys call it the higher brain learning
Living.
or living. How did this become to be? And talk about that with our viewers so we have a better understanding before we go any further.
Sure. Okay. Well, we're following them along the lines of stress, and to build on what you were saying, it is within us. A saying that I heard not too long ago was, "There's no God in the sky that's going to wave their magic wand, her or his magic wand, and save us." And that's kind of it's laughable in certain ways because it is within us. And where higher brain living comes from and is stemmed from was the founder and creator, Dr. Michael Cotton, one of my near and dear friends. Through extensive research and development and looking at human growth and human potential and, well, the lack of speed and a lot of them not hitting their mark and failing, looking at the truths in all of them, because I believe there's always a sliver of truth in of basically anything. So he wanted to find out how, and he figured out the how and why and combine that. And what he found is that it's linked into the brain physiology. And lower brain structures, as we call them, or older brain structures, or the reptilian brain, is directly linked into the stress part, which is killing us, eating us alive, as we would say. And the higher aspects of the brain that's what finds the solution to our problems, and that's what gives you higher levels of thinking, more clarity, awakening, if you will, are related to and directly related to the prefrontal cortex, or the higher brain, as we call it. And so the question is, why are we dying of stress when we know that there's people out there that have the ability to transcend that and not have to live in the world of disease? And so he was looking at many things, and he created a technique based on years and years of application, and he combined a technique that creates a surge of energy through the body into the higher brain, and he marries that into, and we marry that now as there's more facilitators coming, into a map of your life. And so a couple takeaway statements would be: sameness equals safety to the lower brain.
Mhm. So I'm just trying. Hang on for a second. So I'm just trying to. I always want to use everyday examples so that people can understand. The scientific community and doctors a lot of times use language that the general public does not understand.
Sure.
So since I'm not a doctor, and if I'm losing you, then I start getting engaged. So what if I say to you, how accurate would this be? This is like when my car battery dies and I can't go anywhere.
Right.
I ask a friend of mine to jump my batteries. Would this be similar?
When we're talking about brain state, or just because that sounds like a stressful situation to me.
No, it seems to me like so it's a way to start. Maybe it's way to open up and the way to start this higher brain.
Yeah.
To have it open up.
So our unique technique, if we're looking at jump starting the car, is most of the time our car isn't even really started to run. And
Right.
so This
Right.
is
Our car is basically dead, and what's running it is the reptilian brain.
right. And so, what higher brain living does is it taps into our potential. Uh, there's energy systems in the body that we've known for a while, and well, we've found ways to touch them or make contacts in it into the body and jumpstart the body's energy. And the unique pattern that we've found consistently creates a surge of energy into your engine, so to speak, or your higher brain. If that's what we're looking at as relationship to a car and an engine and a battery is, we can tap into the body, which I guess if we're looking at that analogy, which would be the battery, turning on the machine, which is our higher brain. And then you can function better and see things better. And you get a deeper sense of who you are if we go all the way into the authentic self.
Right. And how did you get engaged with this, and how did you have your personal experience? I always like to
Sure.
to get your feedback as to personally, and authentically, what did you go through to get to this?
Yeah. Well, I was a chiropractor when I was introduced to this. But how did I get into chiropractic? So that's how it really builds into how I found higher brain living. So I'm sure all of us out there have had a point in time where we saw something or felt something that we inherently knew or innately knew that your life was going to change. Well, that was higher brain living for me. Is I was looking for better, quicker ways to help people, and I was painfully disappointed in some of the outcomes that I was having for massive groups of people with chiropractic. I helped a lot of people. So I was out there doing research and looking at programs and looking at different systems. And again, a lot of them were falling short. Well, I heard about higher brain living. I heard about this guy that's doing this thing. And you have to go see this presentation. And I avoided it. Well, next thing I know, I'm getting drugged to this presentation. And that's how I got turned on to it. As I walked into this center, Dr. Cotton at the time had a Awaken Higher Brain Living Center. And I was listening to his words, and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. But it was when I saw him make some subtle contacts into the body that I watched that body awaken in a way that I'd never seen or been able to create before, but I knew was a possibility. And I said, wow, I want to try that. Not only try that, I actually wanted to be able to do what he was doing. And so it was one of those times in life where everything stopped for a moment, and I guess you call it hindsight now. I knew that something was going to change, but I had no clue that I would leave my life behind and actually be trained in higher brain living, and now being an integral part of enrolling people in our training. So that's how it changed for me. Is I saw something. I saw the live demonstration, and that completely changed my life.
And how did it change your life?
Well, it sent me on a trajectory of, well, uploading.
Like, what was your life before, and what was your life after?
Well, my life was really good. I was content, though, and that's an interesting word to me. Is I was content. I had the title, I had the busy practice, I had the house, I had the.
Well, would you say you were awake then, Dr. Drew?
I had times that I was more aware than others, and I'm more awake now in a lot of ways. I'm more awake to potentials and possibilities. So I must have been awake enough to say yes to what was offered.
Yeah, first you have to recognize there is an opportunity, so you have to be awake to see and feel. Is it mostly seeing or feeling? What was it for you mostly?
Well, it's one and the same. I don't think you can escape. I think you can have both of those happen at the same time. And I was seeing and feeling. It was undeniable. And talking about stress, most of us don't have a very astute ability to feel. We see a lot, just like you were saying, we get caught up in this external world. We don't know how to turn that in and feel and find. And so I saw something and I felt something inherently, innately something said to say yes.
And what was your intuition telling you?
At that point, my
Uh-huh.
intuition it was saying from one mind is saying, I want to know how to do that.
Was it like screaming at you like, "Hey, hey, this is why you're here."
It did scream at me because I watched him make some contacts, some quick contacts in the body, and I worked with the body on a daily basis, and sometimes 100 times a day, 100 different bodies, and I just saw something that I had been hearing about but never had seen, and in the little times that I'd seen the body do what was happening with that person's body is it wasn't like this, it wasn't as dramatic, and it was when the person sat up and I saw their face changed. And I had already known this person. It was what the person was saying at how what he was doing with her, the application and how it changed her life. Because
Did their face really change, or what changed is how you saw them?
both, both,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it was both,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
It definitely changed, and how I know that is everybody else that was in the same well presentation as me said the same. You look different, you feel different, and I knew that person on a personal level. I had known them for a few years, and we were actually had dated previously. So I saw them different for multiple reasons. But it was amazing at that point. We had separated ways, and I saw that person. It was a wow. It could have been 100 other people or a million other people, but I definitely allowed me to see them,
yeah.
forgive them, see a beauty in them that I had shut my life off to for such a long time. So it was quite amazing.
Well, so I probably mentioned this to you, but I lived in Boulder for like 12 years,
Yeah.
and a lot of people experience a lot of things in Boulder, and outside of Boulder, a lot of this stuff is being seen in the past as some kind of woo-woo stuff, and most of these things these days are getting more and more acceptance. And what I'm referring to is things that have to do with neuroscience, things that has to do with energy, things that has to do with frequency. They're becoming more and more accepted now, including in corporate America. But how did you know that this was the real deal?
Like I said, everything aligned at the right time. Had it been a different person demonstrating what was going on, even if had I been in a different mind state, um, it would have been different. I would have made a different choice. So for me, it was everything aligned at the right time. But how did I know? I had that feeling prior that something, aha, whether sometimes it's a hair on the back of your neck opens up. For me, sometimes now I've developed the ability to feel it, and my heart starts to say "wow" or a deep breath. It was just a knowing, and that it was just that, and it's as
I get goosebumps like I have it right now. I
yeah,
get goosebumps when I am connected to the real deal.
me too. And right, and we're in the middle of training about 87 people in this now too, and just like you said, I've been getting those goosebumps happen frequently when you're in the knowing for me too, and yeah, when I start to state truth around the right people, it's that right. If you could see it here, I have goosebumps.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have it right now.
it's that knowing. It's kind of it's fun, and that's a good. There's that's inborn in us to know better and not to have to live in stress and not to have to run these perpetual cycles. And we're built to be amazing, awesome people. And my question is, why are we not more awesome? As awesome as we are, there's more awesomeness. And why can't we have that for longer periods of time and make that the baseline of our life being amazing? And unfortunately, that's not the world right now that you depends on how you look at it. But if you look at on what eyes you decide to put on that day, or what statistic you're listening to, or where you put your focus, but that's not what runs in the news, and that's not what runs mainstream. You hear the worst of the worst,
Yeah.
The other side of it is that could be true, but if that could be true, then the opposite is true, that we never have to deal with that ever. We could go over it.
Yeah,
Or
and
through.
just speaking from my own experience, and let me know, how this, how you hear this, is that as soon as and I kind of, did go through probably the same thing. Uh, yeah, I just used a different modality to get to where you are, or the modalities that you're using. Is that what was interesting with me is that I wanted to know. I had this incredible thirst to know who I am, and what did I come here to accomplish. Like it came to a point in my life where I stopped my previous life, and I said, this is it. It's either now or never, and I want to know. Oh my God! And the goosebumps are. I wish I could have it. Goosebumps are right there.
Yeah.
That I want to know uh, what it is that makes my heart sing, and I want to do that for the rest of my life. And so that's how this network was born over 10 years ago. And I know that I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life, because that's just what. So I can't imagine doing anything else. And if we can help people, if you associates and everybody else that's doing this type of work, because there's many ways to get to the same thing, but if we can help people to get to what makes their heart sing, the world will be transformed.
Absolutely, there is no doubt. So if I'm following you, you found the choiceless choice where there's no other option, right?
Yeah, I gave myself no other option because my life sucked, and and I basically, the day before, I was gonna kill myself. And it's kind of, this is not funny, but
Sure.
just what happened with you know um, the famous actor Williams. Um, I was able to talk myself out of it. He wasn't.
Sure.
But it was one of those days where um, the hole got so deep that it couldn't get any deeper, and I basically said, if I wake up tomorrow the way I was today, I choose not to wake up. And I basically right then and there talked myself out of it, and I said, tomorrow when I wake up, I am changing my life. Period.
Sure. And so, right, and the question is, when I'm thinking of this, and just watch a TED Talk video, can't think of the gentleman's name today. It, we all have thoughts. Thoughts come and go, and sometimes those flood our minds. And if you're going with suicide, and then the opposite side is finding your authentic self and living fully in your life, so you can express those gifts, is but wake up every morning ready to hit the ground running and loving it every moment of it. Because if you, for example, Williams, you would see him from an outside perspective and say he has it all. He's funny, he has this great life, but obviously something inside wasn't feeling right. And if you can transcend the part of just saying, well, we're depressed and let's feed it a medicine, we're depressed, there's a lot of escape routes, right? There's a lot of people that are walking around that are dead. They've already committed living suicide. And that's unfortunate, especially when you start to become awake and attuned. You can see that in people, and you know that there's more potential in there. You know that they can thrive instead of just surviving and living a day-to-day life. That sameness pattern that I talked about, doing the same patterns over and over again, that's killing them. Is, we know now, neuroscience knows it's directly linked into lower brain structure. We also know that to transcend that, to have that feeling or that thought that you had, that awareness to say, I don't have to live like this, I have to make a choice, that comes from here. That comes from the highest part of the brain. To have an intuitive thought, or a thought that will change the direction of your life from that sameness equals safety pattern, is through the higher brain. and our technique consistently gets energy, right? Energy is important in the brain. It shifts energy to the highest aspect of the brain, which will, and we give it information. The higher brain also needs information. Unfortunately, the lower brain, here's how we would say it. If everybody, can I do a little exercise for a moment? Do you mind?
Sure. No, not at all.
Okay. So what I'm going to ask everybody that's listening, and even you too, Steve, I'm going to close my eyes, and if we can all close our eyes, what I want us to do is as we start to close our eyes, I want us to remember back, each of us, to the very best day that you've had in your life. And what I want you to do when your eyes are closed and you're starting to remember this, I want you to remember that deep, amazing feeling. The feelings that you were experiencing on that great day. You might not be able to feel the full-blown experience, but you'll start to feel that move in you. And even if it's not the best day, just a good, amazing day where you just feel invincible. And as you sit with that, I want you to start to just notice what's happening inside of you. Okay, if you didn't close your eyes, then you're good, but otherwise open your eyes. There's something about that feeling, that experience. There's many circumstances. I could never pinpoint the specific circumstance that any one of you was having. It might be that you had a child and that was the most amazing experience and you were feeling amazing. You could have composed a piece of work. Or Steve, like you could have woken up to say and created what you've done is an amazing format for conscious individuals to be able to express themselves. And it might be some people, it might be that they got married. That was their greatest day, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could get divorced, right? That's the thing. You could get married and divorced, and getting divorced can create that feeling. Two different circumstances, but it creates that feeling. And I can get the feeling for most people. What the feeling is, if correct me if I'm wrong out there, is it's feeling happy or connected.
Yeah, and feeling joy and being connected. Yes, being connected to ourselves and to another human being. Yeah, I actually went back to when I was 17. I met this girl. I can take myself to the place exactly where it happened. Yep. And exactly I can set up the entire picture the same way it was, and this was a long time ago. And you know, she became my girlfriend. It's the girlfriend I left when I escaped from Hungary, and to this day we are still in communication 40 some years later.
Right. And you had a deep sense of connection at that point, right? And it hasn't, and it's even with
it's still there.
It's still there, right? Mm-hmm. And well, the thing about it is, most people have. You said it was years ago, right? And a lot
40 plus years ago.
So my question would be: is if we can experience that, why can't we? Why don't we? We can. Why don't we experience it for longer periods of time? Why is that not our natural default state of feeling connected and joyful? Why is our default state?
It's because we give control to the lower brain. That's why.
Yep. And we don't. But that the other side is right. We do, and the lower brain doesn't think about it. It just reacts to it, right?
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. It runs amok.
Yep. Right. Well, and it evolved in a predator-rich environment. Well, the predators today aren't saber-toothed tigers. It's your battery dying, like you said, and being stressed. It's not being able to make it to the appointment on time. It's your, well, like you said, your car not starting. It's the performance review. Those are all tigers to the lower brain. It doesn't reference it any different. Right. Yet we have a part of the brain that when it is energized, you feel connected like you did with your girlfriend. You feel connected. It's here.
And Dr. Drew, I just want to interject something. This is why, like, when you probably remember, may or may not be remembering, but we had that terrible day here when a guy went into a movie theater and killed a whole bunch of people.
Right.
When people, you know, we have lots of shows. We have lots of shows all the time. But people ask me, why does that happen? And 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 I tend to say we don't need to find the reason why it's happening, because it doesn't really matter. All we need to recognize is the only human beings that are capable of stuff like that are the people that run by the reptilian brain. If that human being was awake and open to consciousness and open to love, there is no way he could have done what he did. It's impossible.
Right, you're right. And so, like you said, I don't think we need to know why, but we have to create a solution. And
Yeah.
a solution can be focusing on the problem or creating an opportunity the opposite way. And you said it right, it's love. But tuning the receiver to love has to be, my belief and what I know, my research is through the heart, right?
Well, it's the heart being connected with the frontal lobe.
There you go. That's our entire message. But unfortunately, that's what it leads to. Unfortunately, most of us haven't had that. I'm sure there's people out there that our hearts have opened before our brain was ready, and our hearts say, "Uh-oh," and it goes back and it hides. So if you can get energy to the right part of the brain, that can create solutions to the problem, our heart will naturally and organically want to open. And I think that's a missing piece. It's not one or the other, it's both. It's a marrying of the prefrontal energy that has insight and problem-solving abilities, married in with the wisdom and compassion in our heart. And that's the new human. That's the difference between a lower brain running amok human and the higher brain connected to the heart human.
Yeah. Did you see the movie Lucy that was just recently released?
I didn't. Is it a good one?
Yeah, it's a very good one. And what's interesting to me is somehow Hollywood.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They seem to have some connections with I'm sure spirituality and connections, maybe even with alien technology and whatever else. Because they seem to come up with these things, with these movies, just at the right time and the right place.
Yeah, I see the serendipity behind that too.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like when I seen the Matrix, the Matrix trilogy. I mean, I watched it just last week. I don't know how many times I've seen it. I stopped counting after a dozen.
Right.
But I get different messages and different things every time I watch. I went to the same school, by the way, that those producers, the two brothers that created the Matrix. I went to the same school, but it's kind of interesting that how they are able to put these movies out, like I said, at the right time, at the right place, and people are paying attention and going, "Oh, wow, that's amazing! We could really do that if we expanded our ability to actually use more than 10% of our brain."
Sure.
Absolutely, I think anything is possible. I'm sure you believe the same thing. So what really excites me about what you guys do is that you provide a vehicle and a means to an end, which is an opening for people to actually experience their journey and what they really came to this planet to do. It gives a beginning of it, and then it's up to them. So how long does this? How long do people need to do this, and how is it physically done?
Yeah. Well, and to build on a couple things, and I'll touch that is, yeah, we provide a vehicle, and we'll get to that, but we also provide a mapping system for people's lives. And it's a lot of people have great vehicles and a missing map or a missing compass, or they have the map and a compass in a bad vehicle. And so we've married that together. And so, which is creating a surge of energy into the higher brain by making gentle contacts in very specific areas in a very specific sequence in the body. And so I'm sure.
And where did you guys learn that, by the way? I'm just curious.
Well, Dr. Cotton was doing research and development. We're always, I think, from the second we're born until the second we die, there's research and development. And so he had multiple different things that he was looking at hands-on techniques to spiritual techniques, and he saw a lot of different things, and it birthed through him by making contacts in people and creating certain outcomes based on a lot of different philosophies, even yogic mystic philosophies of touching certain points, creating certain.
Are these energy points in the body?
Yeah, yes, we call them pathways, but yes, I mean anything that you touch in the body can be an energy point, and we all have our own languages, right? If you're talking to an acupuncture, they call it meridian points. If you talk to a yogi, they might call it a nadi point. If you talk to a chiropractor, you might call it a muscle point or whatever you're looking at. And so we've just found a specific sequence of these points that creates a specific outcome, which is a surge of energy in our higher brain, which we've measured. We actually been measuring it with a neurophysiologist in Denver area, Dr. Penny Montgomery. And we found that these energy spots in the body cue and awaken the higher brain on the inside, but there's also an external thing that the facilitator, that's what we call the people that are trained in it, can see happening when the higher brain starts to awaken. It creates its own feedback mechanisms, which are the opposite of the stress mechanisms, which are shortening our breath, getting ready to fight, flight, freeze, and binding our body down. It actually creates, and here's a key point, it's an involuntary automatic breath that expands through the body, cued by the higher brain's energy. And the reason, like you were saying, we use a very small potential of our higher brain, about 5 to 10% is the going number, but there's also, we know that there's latent emergent properties that have to be awakened in the higher brain. And one of them that externally we see is a big breath, but we can also measure with EEG that there's an increase in the right brain waves. And so the energy systems in the body have been known for thousands of years. Unfortunately, a lot of things that you see out there are painfully, we call it consistently inconsistent. They don't create the same outcomes for multiple people. It's rare that systems create widespread change. They usually create it in a small section of people, right? I mean, true transformative changes, not just a state change. A lot of things create that, wow, I have a state change in your brain can say, I feel good now, and then 2 seconds later you feel crummy. And so
I call it an aha moment. I mean, we can have an aha moment, which is transformational,
yep.
but can you sustain, who you're being afterwards?
Most of the time we can't, because the lower brain creeps back in and it creates the same habits over and over. It brings you back. And so an aha moment is lived for a second or a moment or even a few moments. And so what we need to create is a widespread, worldwide stage, S-T-A-G-E, stage change, which is those aha moments start to be how you live your life. And if you can have it a little bit, that means you can have it more and more and more. And Andrew Newberg, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, would say awakening is primarily due to a fundamental shift in brain dominance to the prefrontal cortex, or what we refer to as the higher brain. And so, and that's
makes sense.
And then when a human does that, they wake up to a world more real than the one that they thought they lived in. It creates a whole new way of being when you can get enough energy in here and then apply it to your life. So you can say, like you said, create sustainable change. And we found that that's happening at a huge percentage of the people that go through the program, at least an initial program, which is in a higher brain living center or with a facilitator, is 22 sessions long with a very specific application to each one of your sessions. So each higher brain living session, which is 45 minutes to 50 minutes long, creating the surge of energy in the higher brain, which will happen on the very first session. Well, then what? You have this amazing feeling. You feel lighter, more clear, a state change. Well, how do you apply that into your life? Well, you have to create new neural pathways and create new grooves to the higher brain, because the brain is pretty savvy. It's also a neuroplastic, which we know, which can create new pathways, and it does allow us. For the longest time, we thought once you hit the 20s, you were done. Well, we know you can create new patterns now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I am living proof. I mean, the way I did it is I studied this network, and I participated in over 15,000 television shows,
Right.
which is all about different modalities, and it's all about positive stuff, and it's all about good energy. And the end result of this is that I created lots of new neural paths and connections in my brain, as you said it so well. And so today, and I don't know where this is going with me, because I have no idea. But today, my life is so different. Is that, for example, fear is not something I associate with anymore. And I used to be very, very fearful, in the past. And so I don't associate with fear at all. And I'm able to manage, like I learned how to live in the present moment. And that's something we're teaching also on these shows on the network, how to be present with somebody. Like I am right now conducting myself with you in a way that there is no other conversations in my head. They are all turned down. So the only thing that you and I have right now is being present with each other. And I'm even listening for stuff that you're saying, as you're saying it, that in between the pauses, I can even hear things that you're not physically saying with words.
Sure.
And
right.
And what's cool about it is that also that time disappears. It's like I'm looking at our show clock, and we got 8 minutes left. And so I call these the conscious hour, because it doesn't feel like an hour. It feels like 5 minutes. It almost feels like we just started the show, and the next thing you know, it's over, because we have been very present, and we did this show in the present moment. We didn't do it from the past. We didn't do it from the future. We did it now. The next moment, the next moment, and the next moment.
Yeah, you're right. There's a couple things you said. Is what you've been able to do is take fear and turn it into fuel for your success. It sounds like to me. Otherwise, you wouldn't.
Well, I'm not recommending that people do what I did, because it took me 10 years to get here. I think your methodology is much faster.
Well, it is, but the technology is speeding up within us, or our awareness to the technology within us is speeding up. And so we have inherent technology. It's been here for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. But if it's been there, why are we not using it to its fullest capacity and potential? Why? Because this old lower brain is still dominant, and it's eating us alive. It doesn't have to be that way. And for most of the people that we start to see that are committed, that you have to commit, you do have to create discipline. Because let's just face it, it's a rarity to have the aha moment like you've had, and a few of us in the world have had. And I don't even know if I've had it yet. Maybe. I like to say I'm present, and I am a lot of the times. But you also have to create structure and discipline to create that, right? You can show up. The reason you're able to show up and do what you do was consistent application over 10 years and failing forward.
I mastered it, and that's really what you're talking about. It's the same thing what you guys are doing. I'm sure the founder of HBL, I'm sure he mastered this. So he spent, and I'm learning that it takes at least 10,000 hours. It doesn't take 10 years, but it takes quite a bit for people to master a skill.
I've heard that too. It takes 10,000 hours of application to master. And then the other side of it is, if time is speeding up, as some would think, I kind of believe that, so is technology, and so is
I actually no longer believe in time. The only reason I still have time, I have got rid of watches 10 years ago. I don't need a watch. The only reason I still have the timekeeping is because of the network, and because I have to meet you at the right time to do the show. But other than that, I have no use for time.
I'm the same way. Time is such a interesting thing. I want to go to a point that you said we're all going to the same place, right?
Hmm.
And there's different pathways, and I acknowledge that, and I respect many of the pathways that are going to the same spot. Some of them, though, I'm going to have to say, are quicker than others and more
Yeah.
efficient than others.
Oh, no
Uh,
question.
and I fly often because I do national presentations all over the United States. And I always say, if I wanted to be, I'm in Chicago, if I need to be in New York, well, at 8 o'clock tonight, I'm going to fly. It's the most efficient and effective way. However, if I decided to, I could walk, I could trek there, I could ride my bike, I could drive a car. But if I want to get there fast and efficient, I'm going to take an airplane with the most sophisticated instrumentation to get me there quickly with precision and accuracy. And that's what higher brain living has found is we can charge up the higher brain and do a very specific application to all areas of your life from the higher brain perspective, not the lower brain perspective where sameness is eating you alive, but from a different perspective. As Einstein would say, you can't solve a problem from the same perspective that created the problem in the first place. And so you need, or the consciousness, right? Same consciousness that created it. Well, consciousness is alive in here. The lower brain is on automatic pilot. So we help create a fundamental shift in brain dominance and then apply that energy to every area of your life from a higher brain perspective so it can see opportunities in every problem, not a problem in every problem, which is what the lower brain does. That's a problem that's going to kill me. That's a problem that's going to eat me alive. That's a problem. And so it does all those nasty things to our physiology that creates all of these diseases that are killing us. But it doesn't have to be that way. So
Yes, I'm definitely a fan, Dr. Drew. So I want to experience it, for myself. So let's talk about what you guys are doing, what you're going to be doing in Denver, how people can get more information, and we're going to have you back on our cable TV studio live,
I'm excited for that.
actually pretty soon. And
Yeah.
we're going to it's going to be on September 4th on a Thursday at 5 o'clock, so people can come into the studio, actually witness this, or they can watch it on Comcast Channel 56. So tell our viewers a little bit more about where they can get more information and when you're coming to Denver, where they can come visit you and actually witness this.
Sure, absolutely. Well, obviously, I encourage each of you to watch the live feed that we're going to be doing. But on September 8th, that's a Monday, at 6:30 p.m., it's going to be at the DoubleTree Hotel in Denver. It's on Stapleton North. It's 4040 Quebec Street. That's where we're going to host our event. You can find our event at higherbrainlivingevents.com. For this one, it's going to be /Denver/. All of the information will be on there. And once you hit the link and then you register, which I want all of you to register and come. I would love to see all of your shiny faces that are behind your computer screens or however you're experiencing this. I honestly would love to see you. You're going to apply, or you're going to hit the link, and you're going to get some videos that you'll start to see what happens to the physiology, which is what blew my mind and got me on this path. And out of chiropractic, I don't do that anymore. It's kind of a bittersweet, but I love what I do now. I wake up, it's the choiceless choice. So that's September 8th, that Monday at 6:30. Register at higherbrainlivingevents.com /Denver. And like I said, I'd love to see you all and watch us again on Thursday. That's September 4th here.
Awesome. And then you also, well, thank you for sharing all that. And you're also going to be coming to Boulder later on in the year. And the reason why I want you to mention that is because I don't know if you notice, and if you don't live in Boulder, you may not know, that people living in Boulder really don't leave Boulder.
They don't.
So you can invite them all you want to the Denver event. They're not going to come down.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, the Boulder event, that is, I don't even have the exact date on that. Like you said, I live in the what's in the moment. And this
Yeah,
here's my moment.
we'll mention it. We'll mention it
Yeah.
then on the show on the 4th.
Absolutely. And we do have seek out on our website, higherbrainliving.com, too. We have facilitators in the Boulder area that would love to see you. And they host their own presentations. And so we do. And like you said, I have facilitators out there that I visit. And it's hard to pull them out of Boulder into Denver when I'm in Denver. So yeah, we go up there.
It's a whole country. It's a whole country all by itself.
Yeah, beautiful. I love Colorado.
So, how big is the organization anyway? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, so the organization of facilitators, we've trained over, I was just crunching the numbers, 255 or more facilitators that are trained in the actual technique. And it's spread out over the United States. So if you get it, that's a small number. I mean, it's really, we're growing though, and we've doubled in the last 2 years, and we're looking to nearly double that number coming again next year as we enroll people for the training, which right now, because our organization of trainers is not, it's not 250. I have 10 trainers that I'm responsible for, and Michael, Dr. Cotton, and I meet, and all of our trainers that train the hands-on technique. So we're growing quickly, but we need more people out there doing what we do.
Awesome. Well, it's been an absolute joy being with you here today. Our conscious hour is actually coming to an end. Thank you so much, Dr. Drew. If anybody that's watching right now live, we're going to be watching the replay. If anything that Dr. Drew or I said or did on the show that touched, moved, and inspired you, please engage with us at consciousevolutionmedia.com. Just leave notes on the show pages or whatever you would like, and keep coming back to watch these incredible programs, because we are still the best kept secret, but not much longer. So we intend to grow very fast as well, and at some point be in every household, so everybody will know who Conscious Evolution Media is, but it is a process. Thank you so much, Dr. Drew, and I look forward to being with you on September 4th in our Cable TV studio. Thank you all, and come back tomorrow. We have another special edition.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see you.
Thank you. We'll see you guys tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Have a good one.